Good evening, friends. It's been a long time that we have met. Today, we are going to talk about the subject financial management. Before we go deep into what financial management or before we proceed with what financial management, now let us try to understand what exactly is finance before understanding financial management. We keep on hearing this word quite often. Finance is money, money is finance, or anything, capital is finance. A lot of words we keep on hearing with respect to finance. Money, banks, financial institutions, mutual funds, capital, working capital, fixed capital, cash flow, fund flow, bank reconciliation, a lot of things, dividends, policies. We keep on hearing these words quite often and we get so enamored by these words that it becomes like finance becomes the white Eiffel Tower in business sense. Whereas in pure simple terms, if you want to understand financial management, the first thing that you need to understand is what's finance. Finance basically it's the language of business. Any business you take for that matter, you pick up any business newspaper for that matter, all you come across is the different and exciting vocabulary of finance. Any business is incomplete without talking about finance. The most important language of business of any sector is when you talk business in terms of finance, that starts making sense. Like for example, the marketing team might be doing excellent work, HR people might be contributing excellently, but how do you quantify their contributions? So if you want to quantify their contributions, if you want to talk contribution in terms of value, then ultimately you have to come down to finance. Ultimately you got to speak the language of finance. And the key to speaking any language of finance, or for that matter, not only finance, but the key to speaking any language is using the words that are associated with finance, or for that matter, or for that language. Like for example, if I want to learn an exotic language, or for that any simple language, even regional language, if I want to learn Marathi, Hindi, Telugu, Tamil, or any other language for that matter, you need to understand the words that are associated with finance. You need to make a list, you need to make a summary of the words that are associated with finance. So in finance, what do you come across? You come across money, you come across funds, you come across the word risk, return, banks, financial services, capital, margin capital, working capital, weighted average cost of capital. All these words, when you come across, you get perplexed, you get confused. That finance is not my cup of tea, right? It's not that finance is something which we cannot understand. In fact, finance, once you understand finance, you can understand any domain of business or any function of business, be it marketing, HR, production, operations, or IT for that matter. Even HR nowadays is talking in terms of HR accounting, right? That means, in very simple words, everything is being quantified. Every function of management is being quantified. So whenever things are being quantified, you need to understand the vocabulary that is associated with that language. Like I said, No business is complete without understanding finance. Hence, it's the language of business. It's the lifeblood of economy. You look into the economy for that matter. Economy is also quantified in terms of numbers. You say that GDP is worth this much, exports are worth this much, imports are down by this percentage, or per capita income has gone up by this much. What is that? You are relating everything in terms of value. So finance basically refers to estimation of values. How much is this worth? Like if I say, this may, in economic sense, this may, you may say that this costs, the spectacle costs, these eyeglasses, they cost, say for example, 500 rupees. This is the cost. But how much is it worth? If I want to quantify that, what can I say? I can read with it, I can see with this very clearly, I can watch that, I can do this thing. So everything, this is what, these are random statements. So how far can I see? This far I can see. What else can I do? I can read 100 pages. So what I'm doing, I'm quantifying everything, right? I'm putting value to the things that are in perspective. So whenever you associate value to the common things, to the common process, to the common concepts, the role of finance becomes clear. Always think finance not only in terms of numbers. Numbers means they are quantifying it. How far can I go? I can go, say for example, I can walk 5 miles. Is what? You're talking in terms, you're measuring it. Anything that is tangible, anything that is measurable falls into the purview of finance. In economy also, if you say that I exported 100 tons of, say, manganese, India exported 100 tons of manganese in the month of June. 100 tons means what is the value of that? So even in economics, if you want to make sense of economics, finance comes into play. Hence, anything that is quantifiable, measurable, tangible is what we call as finance. Dominant force in capitalism. Without finance, capitalism doesn't work. Capitalism, very simply put, where everyone is contributing for everyone's benefit, right? Land, labor, this is what you're talking about. Capitalism is what? You're trying to optimize. You're trying to optimize the use of assets, whether be it human assets, physical assets, or assets in any other form, right? You're trying to optimize the factors that are associated with capitalism. It's a dominant force. Without finance, capitalism doesn't work, right? In socialism, what is important? What is the dominant force? Contribution of people. People, humans, they are the dominant force in socialism. Whereas in capitalism, finance is the dominant force in capitalism. Now, the world itself has opened up. Everything you see around socialism is deadwood now, right? So what is working right now? What is going on in the world right now? Capitalism. And if you want to understand capitalism, if you want to understand the present scenario of the global economy, you got to understand finance. Critical aid for progress in career. You need finance to move ahead in life. It's a critical aid. It's not only the aid or the important aid, it's critical. Without finance, you cannot progress ahead in your career. You got to take care of your own finances, personal finances, family finances. That means you got to take care of your earnings, you got to take care of your spendings, you got to take care of your savings, everything. So all this is related in the purview of finance. Hence it's become critical in one's progress ahead in life. It's study of optimal allocation of assets. There are two things. Generally we get confused between optimization and maximization. Maximization is not optimization, right? Optimization is what? Given an asset, say out of 100 rupees, you try to have as many things as possible as they are needed and wanted, right? And also desired. So when you try to have most of the things, not maximum things, most of the things in 100 rupees, that is what we call it as optimization. You're trying to derive with minimum of efforts, right? You're trying to derive maximum satisfaction with minimum of efforts. That is what we call it as optimization. So finance helps you to understand the optimum allocation of assets, how much assets are needed to do business. It's not that you need 500 crores to start a business. If you have 500 crores, you're going to be successful. That is not the story. The scenario in the real world works differently. Hypothetically speaking, it may be so that to start a project, to start something, say for example, you need to start a business, you might be needing X amount of capital. If you get that amount of capital, you're going to be successful? No. You got to optimize whatever is there. What if I allocate these resources to something else so that the returns are maximized? This is what we call it as optimal allocation of assets. And that is here where finance comes into play. Starting to invest for maximum possible returns, right? Optimal allocation of assets, optimum utilization of resources so that you have maximum possible returns, not sure returns. Everything in finance world is very fluid. It's not static, it's not constant, it's not fixed, it's not rigid, it's dynamic. Because in finance world, everything is fluid. Everything is changing by the minute. Somebody is investing, somebody is withdrawing, somebody is again putting money into the business, somebody is taking the money from that one sector, is putting into different sector. Everything, the churning is going on all the time in finance. So the most dynamic aspect of any business is finance, and anything that is dynamic is exciting. Forward-looking field concerned with value of an asset in future. It always looks into the future. What is the worth of an asset in the future date will be? That is included in the study of finance. Say for example, if you are investing 500 rupees, if you're saving 500 rupees, what would be its worth in the near future? That is taken care of by the study of finance, right? So it's always forward looking. It's not that what if I don't sell whatever I have produced, how much loss that I'm going to make? What if I sell even before production? What the capital that is employed for production of goods and services, if it is optimized with minimum of capital and maximum of output, how can I do that? You're always talking in terms of future value of an asset. That's why finance is the place to go. Leverage lever. It's a bit new word to understand. Leverage lever. What is leverage? Leveraging is you're using a certain what you can say for example, if I want to push a big boulder of rock, how do I push it? Right? I simply use a crowbar, put a little stone behind that crowbar and try to push it, right? Generally we try to do this, okay? We try to put a small stone over here. I place this under that boulder and try to push it. What is that? I am leveraging the angle that is created by the small stone to push a bigger rock. This is how you do normally, right? You're creating an angle and trying to push that rock. So what is that? This is the lever and this is the leveraging factor and this is what I need to push. Simply put, what are you saying? Money is very small part of doing business. You need people, you need machinery, you need marketing people, everything you need. You need process, you need regulations, you need to pay taxes. So money is very small part of any business, but though it is very critical. So how do you use your finance, right? So that you achieve whatever you want to achieve. Like we'll be discussing later on in financial management. Generally, we do business for what? For making profits, right? So how do you achieve your profits? So whatever precious little money you have, whatever precious capital you have, whatever precious finances you have at your disposal, you try to put it in optimum use so that you make maximum profits. That is, put it simply, you try to put that hard-earned capital into those kind of businesses where there are chances of maximizing the returns by taking minimum of risk, right? So hence finance is what? It's a leverage lever. This is one lever, right? See, for example, you close a big door by using one latch, right? That latch, though it is very small, but it is very critical to close that door and keep it safe, right? So finance is that leverage lever of business so that you're minimizing risk and maximizing the returns. What else is finance? It's concerned with three important areas: financial management, capital markets, and investments. And this is where generally the jobs move around in finance. That we'll discuss in the coming lecture. The area of finance, financial management, capital markets, and investments. Financial management is done within the organization. To do business, you need to raise capital. From where you're raising it and how you're raising it is the study which is included in capital markets. Investments, the capital that is thus generated, how do you invest, right? How do you invest, where to invest, when to invest, and why to invest? These are all areas that come under the purview of finance. Now in the last semester we had studied about managerial economics, and before understanding economics, if you remember very well, I talked about economics. Managerial economics is divided into two: microeconomics, that is taking decisions at firms level; macroeconomics, decisions that are associated with at the country's level, at the national level, right? So how to increase GDP, how to increase employment, how to increase per capita income, how to pull the prices down, how to control inflation. These are all things that are studied in economics. What is economics? Let's understand once again. It's a social science dealing with what? PDC of G&S, that is production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. It's a social science, right? And also economics is what? It's dealing with getting the optimum from the available scarce resources. That's also one definition. And economics always explains the cause and effect of any given scenario, right? If, say for example, if you want to increase exports, so what will that lead to? It will lead to appreciation of rupee. If you want to import, what will happen? That will lead into the depreciation of rupee. So it explains the cause and effect. Economics explains the cause and effect of any given scenario. Similarly, what's finance? Let's try to understand. It deals with optimal allocation of assets. That's what we had talked about a little while earlier. Optimal allocation. Say for example, you have 10 different ingredients in your house and you want to make the best pulao. So what do you try to do? You don't put maximum of everything into making a pulao. You put everything into making a pulao according to their word in making pulao. You don't say that since I have put 2 tablespoons of spices, I'm also going to put 2 tablespoons of salt. No. You're trying to put something of, say for example, all the ingredients in varying proportions, right? So that the pulao becomes the great dish. So what are you trying to do? This is a perfect example of what is optimal allocations. Say for example, if you want to make a great dish, you take unequal amounts of, not unequal amounts, but different proportions of all the ingredients so that you have a great dish in your hand. That is what we call it as deals with optimal allocation of assets. And it's also concerned with future value of business decisions. What if I don't invest, or what if I don't expand the business? What I shut down the business and move into different business? What if I acquire another company? These are what? These are business decisions. So what is the impact, future impact of these kind of decisions is studied in finance in quantifiable terms, right? So I don't go and buy a company, I don't go and invest in a company, or for that matter, I don't go and invest my 500 rupees also to buy a share only because I want to know. I study its pros and cons, then I go and invest. You know, the beautiful principle of investment is that you don't invest for earning money, you invest money so that the value of money remains the same at the future date also, right? So that is what he studied in finance. And it's always dealing with, finance is dealing with future value of the present business decisions you are taking. What if I employ 100 more people? What would be its value? What would be its future value of that kind of decision? What if I remove 50 people from the business? Say for example, what will happen if my advertisement budget is shortened by 50%? So what is the impact of these kind of decisions? Financial impact, that is studied in finance. Accounting, what is accounting? It's standardization of financial information. What is standardization? You try to put everything into a format. Say for example, in trading account, in P&L account, and balance sheet. So one look at these statements will give you an idea whether the business is viable or not, right? So if you see the balance sheet of any company, you can